Today's title is Apocalyptic Life. It's not a matter of if, but when. Now, there's different degrees in my opinion, because this is all my perspectives and my opinion. You know, you have to say what are facts to you. You have to state it as an opinion so you can be politically correct. but these are my personal facts. These are my viewpoints. These are the things that I feel strongly about. And it has to be that way. We have to not be apologetic as to how we feel, because then we compromise ourselves. And then any other thing that happens externally, all of a sudden it's like, okay, you know, I'll let this in. I'll compromise this way. We have to be people. If we're going to be strong and resilient, we have to be people who are not compromisable. What happened to the old men? Remember back in the day, the old men who, no matter what, they were very opinionated. And I have to say, probably 85% of the time we disagreed with them, but they were staunch and they were rigid. And that's not too good to be rigid, but at the end of the day, they may have passed away or moved away, or you forgot about them. And then you find out that what you thought was quackery, this man was correct. He saw something, or this woman was correct. And they did not compromise. See, when you get to a certain point in life, when you know that you know that you know that you know, you can't have people come around just to be fair, you know, let this person's opinion seep into your subconscious mind. Then you're not going to live the life that you need to live. This is why I make decisions. And once I make the decision and can see through what I need to see through, like, okay, this is crap. This is fluff. This is the real meat of the situation. This is what I need to roll with. That's what I do. And I'm not going to compromise. I'm not going to do it. No way. So I'm not saying that we're going to head to this apocalypse and it's going to be like in the movies where everything's burnt down and the Statue of Liberty will knock down like behind my head here in the banner. That's fantasy, but that could also be reality. That's a reality I don't want to see. I don't want to see any of the world go through that. But we have to understand that many places in the world have gone through scenarios like that already. It's a reality for them. So you can't tell them that's not a possibility in the future. Those of us, say, for example, those in the U.S. who've had domestic things happen. We had 911, we had the C-19 thing, we had to take the jab. But for the most part, aside from mass shootings, these things that go on there, we pretty much had it good where, you know, it's a lot of crime. Things are mounting, tensions are mounting, and we're going to become our own worst enemy if we don't get our own heads together. But there are other parts of the world that dealt with some serious cataclysmic situations that in their world, this was apocalyptic for them. You know, when you're about to have a cookout and you see this big cloud coming, you're like, oh man, it's going to rain on my cookout. I have all the food laid out. I have everything grilled out. People are on their way. And we're going to have to postpone it or bring it inside. And say it rains for 15 hard minutes. And you give up. And you get a phone call from somebody across town who's heading your way. And they're like, how's the cookout coming? And you're like, man, we had to postpone it. And they're like, why? Because I see a cloud over your area, but everywhere else around it is clear. You see what I mean? So they can see from their perspective that this situation is only temporary. But when you're going through it, it's the whole world. You know, you can only see it that way. So folks who've gone through in different countries, apocalyptic type situations that didn't last long, you couldn't tell them how bombs went off, bullets were flying, that this wasn't the end of the world. And then 5 years later, it's the most peaceful, clean country. You know, look at Rwanda, what they went through, right? You can't find a cleaner place, more peaceful place. It's growing pains. But those of us in the U.S., I pick on the U.S. because I'm from the U.S. Most of my life, I lived in the U.S. And I can see the difference now from this perspective. I can see the cloud that hangs over it, what looms over it. I saw it when I was there, but I can really see it now from a place of peace and a place of clarity. But in an era where technological advancements and globalization have connected the world like never before, a silent war is being waged on multiple fronts. our food, bodies, medicine, animals, livestock, air, soil, and the very foundation of our interconnected existence, the internet. This invisible assault, orchestrated by an unseen global terrorist group, has ensnared the entire planet in its grasp. We're unknowing about this thing. We don't understand how much control we don't have. That's scary to me. The irony lies in the fact that most people remain oblivious to this pervasive threat, for it is not visible to the naked eye. Only those who open their third eyes to a broader perspective can discern the dangers that lurk in the shadows. Am I trying to scare you? No, I'm just trying to smack you around a little bit, wake you up. We're oblivious to it because, like I said, we go about our lives. We want that new hairstyle, that new outfit. We want that new sex partner. We want to try that new drug. Let's get grimy. Not me. I don't do that. But we just have our eyes on things that do nothing to undergird a stable existence. You see what I mean? What undergirds our stable existence are things that are in the control of other people, right? I don't understand it. But we feel so secure. And when these different facets of our life are upset unexpectedly, we tend to get angry. You know, I mean, we put the key in the ignition and the car is supposed to start. When it doesn't start, we start thinking like, what's wrong? This is not supposed to be. When we open up the fridge after shopping and packing the fridge out and packing the cupboards out, if we saw an empty fridge, like, wait a second, I just put all this food in there. What happened? When we flick the switch to put the light on in the room, well, guess what? What happens when it doesn't come on? And then you realize you're at the mercy of things beyond you. And I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm not trying to be that talking head who's a conspiracy theorist. But the bottom line is that we need to take back control of our lives because these different facets are being assaulted. The assault is on multiple fronts. For example, like I said before, our food and our bodies. The very sustenance that fuels our bodies is under siege. Pesticides, think about it, preservatives, and genetically modified organisms. That sounds nasty, right? Have infiltrated our food supply, compromising not only the nutritional value of what we consume, but also the long-term health of our bodies. They package up stuff and we see it. They put the orange juice and they say orange drink. We don't think it's not juice. We see orange drink and we put a big orange on it looking pretty and put a farm behind it with the sun bright. It could be a container full of chemicals, y'all, and we just guzzle it down. Our food, pesticides, preservatives, and genetically modified organisms. It's normal now. We don't read labels. We don't care about what we put on our bodies. We've been compromised. We just snatch it up. Medicine and healthcare, pharmaceuticals, once seen as a beacon of hope for humanity, are now a battleground. Misuse, overprescription, and a manipulation of drug prices jeopardize the accessibility and effectiveness of essential medical treatments. Ain't that something? Once seen as a beacon of hope for humanity, with diseases that we don't have around now, that were epidemic 100 years ago, 150 years ago, assured death. And so now, you know, pharmaceuticals, these geniuses in the world of drugs and science that targeted certain diseases to wipe them out. But now we have more diseases. And now the whole pharmaceutical thing now it's a battleground. The drug prices. Some can get it, some can't. Overprescription. Designer drugs. You don't even try to change the habits that got you sick. You just want to reach for a drug. And they control us with this. Healthcare. Healthcare starts in your kitchen. Healthcare starts in your home. Healthcare starts in your yard if you have one. And if you don't have one, try to get a yard. Try to get some acreage if you can. The world is not overpopulated. They tell you that. We feel boxed in. We're stacked on top of each other. This is how we're living. In artificial living conditions. And we are controlled because we don't control our destiny. Animals and livestock. The animal kingdom is not spared from this invisible assault. From deforestation to industrial farming practices, our exploitation of animals for food and resources has far-reaching consequences on biodiversity, ecosystems, and the well-being of countless species. They're cloning animals now. They're making these genetically modified meats. Meats that didn't come from some living animal. To me, as far as that's concerned, you take some cells and replicate them, and we got some chicken that never walked, that never breathed, but you're eating the meat. It's crazy. Air and soil quality. The air we breathe and the soil that nurtures our crops are contaminated by pollutants and toxins. Industrial emissions, deforestation, and improper waste disposal contribute to the degradation of our environment, posing a direct threat to both human and ecological health. We don't think about that. What's the guy's name? The Kennedy now that's dabbling in politics. I keep forgetting. Robert Kennedy's son. I remember years ago, he did a study and revealed that most poor black neighborhoods were near some type of toxic dump in the soil. Isn't that something? Is that by chance? Or is it just coincidence that most poor black neighborhoods, communities, hoods now, if you want to call it that, they're very close, if not on top of, some type of toxic dump that was not designated to live on or live near? Because these things seep into our water supply. You know, to me, that's by design. There's no chance with that. We know how wicked America is. We don't think about these things. Oh, I can get a cheaper rent over there. Well, you'll be dying 20 years from now with something inside your body. I hate to say it like that, because there's a lot of good people out here that just don't know. But then they'll turn around and say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And they'll never look into these things. They never will. The internet as a global grid. The internet, often perceived as a beacon of connectivity and progress, has become a battleground for cyber threats. From data breaches to identity theft, the global grid that powers our modern world is vulnerable to malicious attacks that can disrupt economies and compromise personal information. It was a wonderful thing, the internet at first. Wow, we can be connected. We can shoot messages. We can do FaceTime now. We got video now. Wow. So we gave everything up to it. At first, we were paranoid. I don't know about telling my business out here. I don't know about doing my banking out here. But we got paranoid at first, right? And then everything is opened up now. We tell all our business online because everybody's there. We forget that this is not private. It can be hacked into. We have no privacy anymore. Most of our communications are public. That's something? The unseen enemy. The assailants in this invisible war are not just external forces, but also the collective ignorance of individuals who remain unaware of the gravity of these threats. That's just as bad, the collective ignorance. While direct enemies may employ tangible weapons, our complicit enemies wield ignorance as a dangerous tool. Ignorance is a dangerous tool. Ignorance is our biggest threat. And who controls that? We do, because we don't research things. We don't read. We look at the mainstream media and they tell us something and we go with it hook, line, and sinker. Ignorance. When you have knowledge, when you know what to do, when you know how to live and how to discipline yourself, it's harder for any external force to come at you because you're living proactively, not reactively when things go wrong. Now, what do? You should have thought about that. But that person who you thought was crazy, who is living proactively and had everything into place, you're running to him now. Well, how do I get out there? I can see that it's better. I get that all the time. Hey, Lance, man, what is it really like living out there in Africa? Man, stuff getting hard. I see you kick back enjoying yourself, and we stressed out here. Well, you can do what you do there to make things better. You don't have to run to another country. I didn't run to another country. I wanted to come here because I knew there's certain things and certain factions of individuals would not be here to annoy me like they have in the previous decades of my life. The lack of awareness and understanding becomes a breeding ground for the perpetration of these invisible assaults. And we're facing a double attack. As individuals who have opened our third eyes to perceive the threats lurking in the shadows, we find ourselves under a double attack. The direct enemies orchestrating these assaults aim to exploit our vulnerabilities and disrupt. I'm getting tongue twisted over here. I'm getting to this. They disrupt the delicate balance of our interconnected world. Simultaneously, our complicit enemies, blinded by ignorance, inadvertently contribute to the perpetration of these invisible threats. It's imperative for us to recognize and comprehend the invisible war being waged on our world. By acknowledging the threats to our food, bodies, medicine, animals, livestock, air, soil, and internet, we empower ourselves to take collective action. Education, awareness, and a united front against both the seen and unseen enemies are essential for preserving the well-being of our planet and ensuring a sustainable future for generations to come. As we unveil the invisible, we equip ourselves with the knowledge needed to safeguard the world from the clutches of these unseen threats. Well, how do we do this? I've been babbling about preparing and doing different things. Well, I'll throw out a few suggestions. Where to start, right? A few little things, right? Emergency kits. Create emergency kits with essential supplies, including non-perishable food, water, first aid supplies, flashlights, batteries, and important documents. Do you have your documents sitting around like, somewhere like in a folder, whatever? What if they get wet? What if they get destroyed that way? Why not put them in a fireproof safe in plastic, right? In case it falls and breaks open and water gets to it. Or if you have a fire and you lose these documents, and the actual documents are so hard to get. I had a situation years ago where my wallet, I was pickpocketed. I had these loose jeans on. And it wasn't so much the money. I think it was like about $350 in there. Who would want to lose $350? But worse was the license. I had my social security card in there. I had some business to take care of. I don't always carry it around with me. But I had all my documents, all my cards in there. I would have rather hand the money over as opposed to dealing with, credit cards and freezing them up and going to the license place and having to prove who I am. And oh God, that was so much more. That was a job in itself. I say, here, take the money. Not that I would give it away that way, but we got to protect our documents, and you get a cut inside of your house or a deep gash. And how do you take care of that? The other day I was running all up and down town And in my mind, I knew I had to pick up a few things. I'll go another day. When I got home, I realized I had less than I thought I did. I'm like, man, I was right by the supermarkets. I should have shopped for the things that I would get from a supermarket. Because just the other day, I went in the backyard. I have a lot of pineapples growing back there. And I went out there thinking I was, 2 or 3 might be ready. I came back inside with 15. 15 pineapples. After this is over, I'm going to be a pineapple eating fool. Because we prepared. And I don't just throw away the tops. You put them back in the soil so they grow. And you get one pineapple, you take that one off, and the other ones are coming up. That's how beautiful nature is. But we don't think about that. We just keep going to the supermarket and the supermarket and the supermarket, and you never get anywhere. Imagine slashing your food bill in half or 75%. Huh? You can do that. But you got to get out of the system. We got to make communication plans. Establish a communication plan with family and friends in case traditional means fail. Consider alternative communication methods like two-way radios or satellite phones. Yes. Now, how do you say it? It's H-U-A-W-E-I. I think it's Huawei. It's not Huawei, like Yahweh ben Yahweh. I think it's Huawei, the company that makes cell phones, right? And I just saw recently that their most powerful cell phone that they've made to date has satellite phone capabilities. Now, what's the difference with that? Say all of the towers go down with the cellular systems, right? Chances are the satellites are still going to be in place. They're expensive calls. But if everybody had a phone like this, instead of going out there and buying rims for your vehicle, instead of going out there and spending all this money on something that you don't need, keep your family in communication. And if this grid goes down, at least you can find out if they're okay, because that's one of the biggest things. If you cannot communicate with your family or close friends, you're wondering where they are, how they're doing. They might need something. And it's like, how do you get to them? Well, I mean, satellite phones can malfunction too, I could imagine, because anything technological can fail. But I thought about that a long time ago, and it was only a satellite phone you can get. You couldn't have smartphone capabilities or a smartphone that has satellite capabilities. It's expensive, I would believe, but it's worth it. It's worth it because maybe you all can meet up somewhere or speak to each other and say, hey, and people will be like, wait a second, the grid is down. How are they talking on the phone? Because you thought ahead of time. And you don't have to sit here and use that phone every day. You could use the smartphone aspect of it. This is just me talking, right? And save that satellite part for when you really need it. You know? Because like I said, when things go down and you can't communicate, imagine no internet, right? Your smartphones don't work. This smart world, this smart home, this smart everything, if it shuts down, you're stuck. Is it really smart? Something else has control over your life and not you. So you don't want smart anything. Nah, I don't want it. Not in my house. I have things then and there that I can use. And a lot of batteries, solar power is the way to go. Because the sun's not going to send you a bill. Hey, you know, I've been hanging up here all my life and, you know, giving you vitamin D and feeding your plants. And, you know, you got to pay me $1,000 this month for all the... And that's what the engineered system doesn't want you to get into. They're doing things for us. They're giving us these seductively sweet amenities that we think, oh, if I just have that, my life is going to be easier. Nah, because when they pull the plug on that bad boy, you're done. What about your evacuation routes, right? Identify multiple evacuation routes and establish meeting points. Plan for both local and long distance evacuation. Something jumps off and your wife is at the shopping mall. The husband's at the job. Your kids are at school, right? If you don't have a designated place to go to, if possible, and you can't call them, you're sitting there panicking. Oh my God, my mother, my father. Oh my God, my kids. Oh my God, my dog. Preparedness. Is this paranoia or is this preparedness? You see? Nuclear war preparedness. Nuclear war is very much a possibility in this day, in this last month, going on up until the last week, and 2 more weeks, less than 2 weeks of 2023, right here in 2024. And the world is on the verge of war, according to what they say. Again, it could be fear mongering. It could be a distraction. It could be the whole global thing where they want to control the world. We don't know all the way what it is. And the countries say, let's get together and act like we're in a fight. But we're going to knock down the whole electric grid, and we'll all have control over our people. They don't love you. They want to secure themselves even more. They lie and tell you the world is overpopulated. Come on. And, who was it? So-and-so Spills, right? Said you can put the whole planet in the state of Texas. That's crazy, right? That's crazy, but true. It's something that we have to really deal with, right? Identify and prepare suitable shelter in case of a nuclear attack. Basements and structures with thick walls offer better protection. Yeah, basements, part of the place that goes into the ground. You know, I did something like that, and I'm very happy. If I was like in a 1-story structure, whatever's on top of that surface that blasts through, oh well. Windows ain't gonna stop it, whatever. You know, you got to go somewhere where you can have a basement, number one. And there are other structures that you can build in your property that you can sustain life. If you have it, you can pack food down there, put it underground, have some type of solar capability. Be creative. And if something doesn't jump off, well, it's fun. You did it. Now you don't have to live in fear. Radiation protection. Learn about radiation protection measures, such as staying indoors, using shelters, and having potassium iodide tablets on hand. You need that if the nuclear thing jumps off. What are you going to do? Just, let me go to the pharmacy. Hold on, nuke. You know what I mean? Let me go down there in the Walmart. I'm sorry, Walmart, they have a pharmacy. Walgreens, a CVS, Dwayne Reed. And you don't think there won't be a gazillion people there getting the same potassium iodide? But when nothing's jumping off, you stock up. If you don't use it, you don't use it. You don't want to use it. You don't want to have to use it, rather, right? So, why not? Education. Stay informed about current events and international relations to be aware of potential geopolitical tensions. You know how many people are like, I don't want to hear that stuff. I don't want to hear it. It just puts fear. No. Like I always say, you're driving down the street. You're coming toward an intersection. You see that you have the green light. Do you just say, well, I have the green light, I have the right to go? You do have the right to go, but your eyes should scan left and right all the time. There could be somebody being chased by the police or running from the scene of a bank robbery or an accident where they ran over somebody and they don't want to get caught, and they run the light. In that split second that you have the heads up to turn either left or right. If they're coming from your right, you turn left to minimize the impact. If they're coming from the left, you turn right to minimize the impact in that split second, because they might T-bone you directly and smash your car in where you really brought some harm or paralysis. Why am I saying this in relation to staying informed about current events? Well, in that car accident, you have 2 scenarios. You have 2 types of people. And I think this type of person that I'm about to explain, I'm going to explain to, they're the majority. And what do I mean? Well, there's a car coming from the left. You haven't conditioned your mind to really look left or right. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it hits you. Or it's right on hitting you, and now you realize that you can't get away because you weren't scanning. You weren't thinking about the possibility of a car running the light. So when you see that you're about to get hit 1 split millisecond before you get hit, you take your hands off the wheel and cover your face and scream, ah! What is that going to do? What is that going to do? Screaming? What is that going to do? Then you have the other kind of person who scans because he's not paranoid. She's not paranoid, but she knows that things can happen. And if you adopt these habits to say, you know what? I need to look out just in case. And don't tell me that's paranoia. Then don't have insurance on your car. That's paranoia. Don't have a fire extinguisher in your kitchen. And that's paranoia, right? All these different things. You got a blade on you. You got a piece on you. You got a burner on you for protection. Then you paranoid. No, it's not. It's preparedness, because you know exactly what can happen in our world. Right? But this other type of person, they scan and they don't cover their face and scream. They look at what is happening and assess it, although their adrenaline pumps just as hard as the former person. They take control to minimize the impact. And it's that kind of training and preparedness that gives you the heads up. So when you study world politics and see which country doesn't like another country and they have a grudge, they might be going to war. It might be two little countries that are fighting each other or about to fight each other. But the chain reaction that happens because of their allies involved may turn into a hot spot that triggers off a world war. You know, Iran is way over there. I don't have to win. Oh, they're way over. Ukraine is way over there. Israel, Palestine. Look, these places may not be our fight, but we need to be aware of what can happen, because maybe one of these countries manufactures something there that we need more of. Like the Congo. It has materials that if the Congo didn't exist, there would be no smartphone. So we need to know what's going on in the Congo, because we know that if they go to war and there's a country that takes over their resources, the effect may be where our smartphone prices go up sky high. So one thing affects another. So never think it's isolated and say, I don't need to know that. You're not supposed to get like obsessed with it, but be aware of what's going on. I mean, let's look at it this way. I try to explain things to the point where even a rock can understand it. I'm not saying people are stupid. If you didn't know, let's say, for example, you're standing on the street corner. You haven't seen this guy in a long time. Went to school together. He's on the street corner. You saw him there before, but you didn't know maybe he owns one of the stores or something there. And so you see him. He's, hey, man, I haven't seen you since third grade, man. How you doing? Whatever. You didn't know that he's a drug dealer. He may not be dressed like a little street level drug dealer, but he has a spot there that sells drugs and he's running it. And he's a nice acting guy, intelligent guy. But he chose a profession that is poisonous to his people. Well, guess what? There's a hit on him, a hit on his life. And he heard the rumblings of this, but he doesn't take it for granted. He takes it for granted. Like, they ain't gonna do nothing to me. Now, you don't know this. You walk up to him, you hug him, you talk to him, you're standing within close proximity as this car comes down the street. And there's several weapons pointed at this man. And you think this guy or these guys that are shooting these weapons toward him are perfect shots? They're paid to get him, and they get the rest of the pay after they got him. And you're standing 1 foot from him, and all of a sudden you hear the shots ring out. But some of the shots catch you in the head also, and it catches him in the body. You're dead. His body is riddled with bullets. It didn't hit any vitals. He falls to the ground. Yeah, he's paralyzed a little bit, but he's living. See, you got to be aware of what's next to you. You got to be aware of what's happening in the world. The hit wasn't for you, but you got killed. You see what I mean? So you better know who has enemies where and what positioning they have in the world. Because I'm not going to hang out with anybody who has a hit on them. You understand? So stay aware. Because things that we don't have anything to do with seemingly can affect us greatly. So open your mind and get it out just to the neighborhood gossip or what's happened just in the church and pastor. Well, you ain't got to worry about these things because the Lord has it. You better protect yourself. The Lord gave you a mind, if you want to frame it that way. Use it. Don't follow the blind dictates of a pastor who doesn't want you to think so he can control you and his Masonic brethren. Brethren. You got to think about power grid failure preparedness. Got to think about alternative energy sources. Invest in alternative energy sources like solar panels, wind turbines, or portable generators. For most people, it would be portable generators. Wind turbines really intrigue me. I live up in the mountains, and even when it doesn't seem like there's any wind at all, there's a little bit when you have those big propeller-like things in the ground, and it turns slowly, and it's cranking electricity for you. Cranking it up, and you have batteries to keep this thing. I mean, yeah, you can do the solar panel thing too. Why not both? When the sun's not out, even though when the sun's not out in its clouds, it's still receiving maybe a reduced amount of solar power. You don't have to just have the sun out all the time. But that wind turbine thing I really love, because see, that goes 24 hours. And on really windy days, it's turning. But you can't do that in an apartment. You got to have land. This tells you the importance of land, because you can live on the land, you can eat off the land, you can be protected and everything. And it's a wonderful thing. But here we go. Food preservation. Learn food preservation techniques such as canning and drying to extend the shelf life of perishable items. Do we do that? Doesn't mean you have to store food and sit there and look at it and keep buying food. No, rotate it. You farm, you store your food, canning and drying, and you eat what you've stored. And then you keep doing this process and you store stuff. The new stuff that you just stored goes to the end of the line. The new stuff or the stuff that's older, say you have a week rotation or a month rotation, if you do that, right? You'll be okay. So it's not like, well, this is 1 year old and I got to eat it and I don't think it's all that good. Rotate it. Rotate it. Make that part of your life. It's just a little more effort to guarantee that you keep certain fresh food items. Survival skills. Acquire the basic survival skills like water purification, fire starting, and basic first aid. Water purification. Where are you getting your water from? How do you know what's in it? How do you know how clean it is? What if you don't have water and it's dirty water? How do you purify it? Are we going to depend on going somewhere and getting, bottled water? Which, you shouldn't be doing the bottled water thing. But look, if we have to do it, we have to do what we have to do. But water purification, how do we do that? Do we have the tools to do that? Brother Dave did a video with me, and I'm going to probably put it in on LANCESCURV.com on this particular post for this particular podcast. So you can go on. He went into detail about all of these things. And this was years ago. General preparedness, community engagement. Engage with your local community for mutual support and resource sharing. These are sensible people who are doing the same thing you're doing. Because when it comes to resource sharing, you don't mind sharing with somebody who's doing something and you can barter off. Because remember, the digital currency, you're way up in the mountains. You don't need to exchange money. You can still barter. They can't get between you bartering something. When you barter something, you better have something to offer. If I got a whole bunch of pineapples, you have a whole bunch of bananas, which I have bananas and pineapples growing all the time on my property. You can switch. You might have a whole lot of one and don't need all that. And you can switch. You can barter. Nobody can stop you. But you have to have a community. And remember, in the word community is the word unity. Now, when it comes to resource sharing, there are people who don't prepare and don't have anything to offer. Well, guess what? They're not prepared. They don't have anything to offer. So what? You're going to still share your resources. They're going to come put a pistol by your head. They're going to hop your wall, your fence. They're going to get up in your yard with all the things you've been farming, and you're going to wake up with not much there. You see? So resource sharing doesn't always have to be voluntary. Some people are going to come take your stuff because they're not prepared. They're going to get desperate because now you have to protect yourself, right? How do you defend yourself? What happens if you live way up in the mountains and the police are dealing with mass hysteria, rioting in the bigger cities. And in your area, you have to be self-sufficient. You've always said, well, yes, I can my food and I have solar power and I know how to do water purification. We know about first aid and only major stuff we'd have to go to a hospital for, right? But pretty much we're self-sufficient. Well, somebody shows up on your property and you're an hour and a half away from, or 2 hours from a major city or some protection from some type of law enforcement. What do? You're going to have to take matters into your own hand. Boom. You know what I mean? That's part of it too. Most countries have military and self-defense. All households should have that also. That's part of your survival skills, right? It's skills acquisition. That's what it's called. Acquire skills that may be valuable in a post-apocalyptic scenario, such as farming, basic medical skills, and what? Self-defense. Every animal that you see out here has teeth, claws, some type of chemical that sprays out like a skunk to stink up so bad you want to run. Whatever it is, and as a means of self-defense. Why are you sitting here depending on the police department that oftentimes comes to come and snuff you out because of the color of your skin? You know what I mean? Or they just don't like you. Or they saw on social media that you said something they don't like. Trust me. Trust me. I've said a lot of things, and I'm glad to be away from that wicked place. But you have the right to defend yourself. I don't care what nobody says. If your life is threatened and somebody has the balls to come and try to take your life, then they need to lose theirs because you didn't start this thing. You understand? You're minding your business. You're peaceful. I have no problem preserving my life because my family depends on me. I'm not going to let them down and imagine them sitting there crying, "Ah," because a stranger came to step over the line against you and you're being Mr. Nice Guy. And Mr. Nice Guy, I can't take their life because it's so wrong. And so you're living a good, productive life that undergirds everybody else. And you're going to let them take your life? For what? Nah, don't work that way. I'm a nice guy. I'm soft-spoken. But there's a part of me that's a monster. And I would get a sadistic thrill to wiping out somebody who's coming for me and my family. I got that side of me too. So try me and watch what happens. You'll find out if there's a white Jesus or not. Financial preparedness, diversity assets or diversify assets and have some physical currency on hand. Pretty soon that won't help either with the digital currency coming, right? In the case of a power grid failure, electronic transactions may become impossible. Not maybe, it will be. If there's no power, how you going to get it? It ain't going to happen. Now, when the whole digital currency thing is in full effect, your money's not going to be of any value. I have to give credit where credit is due. I think it was in the early 70s before he transitioned, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or was it late 60s, whatever. He said there's going to come a time in the world where you'll see thousands of dollars in the street and you won't even waste your time to pick it up. That's dope. How did he see this? You know what I mean? To be able to say this, but it's true. It's coming a time. Imagine those of us who know about currency, dollar bills, or whatever it is that your country, your place honors as money. Those of us who've been around, I'm still going to try to pick it up. Maybe it might come back. I don't know. Frame it and put it on the wall. Remember when this had value? But those who grow up in this area will look at it like, that used to be money, but it has no value. What about that? So it's, and we have to also concern ourselves about our mental and our emotional well-being. We're not robots. We're not computers. Most of us are stressed already while being undergirded with systems that keep us living this fairly okay life. And we're still mentally stressed and emotionally messed up. Doesn't mean we can't bring ourselves back to a sense of balance. But we take a pill for that now, don't we? You feel down, take a pill. We need to get rid of all of these things and depend on our well-being and mental health ourselves, right? When we feel ourselves a little off, doesn't mean you're crazy. And many of us as black people, I'm not crazy. I ain't going to see nobody. You don't have to pay to see a shrink, but if you had a community and weren't so isolated, you'd see things a little better because it'd be that energy exchange between other human beings. It's something. In the animal kingdom, I'm learning more and more that they're not these primitive looking, like there's a lot of lizards that run around here, little tiny lizards. They don't bother anybody. They like to come inside where you live and all that stuff, but they don't really bother anybody. And the thing with that is they communicate with each other. I was so sick and tired of it one time because we have certain areas on this property that are secured, and I'm not going to say it and put it out there like that, right? And we have ways of securing it. And these lizards got up under this particular security device, I'll put it that way, and they were all hunched up in there sleeping, and they were all dropping feces in one spot. Well, I went around there and I discovered this in the daytime, and I cleaned up all the feces, swept it away as little weird looking things. And then one or two of the lizards were up in that area again. And I took the broom and I smacked them, not to kill them, because I couldn't get a direct hit because they were up in the mechanism or something. But they both fell and they ran away, and I chased them away. Well, those lizards never came back, and they were there for a while. Not one came back. How do two lizards that got smacked, surprisingly, run off, and all the other lizards, there were a lot of them that were going up under that area, maybe up to 50 of them. I said, oh no, I got to do something about this. I got to do this another day. So two of them communicated somehow with the rest of the lizards that are running around, thousands of them up in the mountains, tens of thousands, who knows? Millions all over, the general area. And they never came back after that one time. They communicate. And I think it's a shame that we, as the higher creatures, who told us that? Are we really acting higher? Or are we barbaric? We've become such a barbaric people. It's amazing how we are. And if we don't get into the unity, which there's certain people you do not want to unify with, because when you tell them your business or they see things, they run all up and down town and make you more vulnerable, because now you have strangers looking at you and your resources. But if you do have a property, you must secure it. Because when the masses of people come looking for resources and they say, hey, we're going to go up in the mountains and we know this dude named SCURV. We know he's prepared. I'm hungry. We're going to take some food from him. Well, I believe in self-defense, and there'll be a high wall waiting, right? And this will be also, there'll be a military aspect of it also behind those walls. There'll be all kind of booby traps. You couldn't even get toward the house. You see what I mean? Like, you have to think ahead of time. Instead of getting yourself caught up in what's happening with Tyler Perry or Kim Kardashian or Sexy Red or Saucy Santana and the debates of the black woman is the problem with the world, or the black men ain't no good. And we're so caught up in so many things that are irrelevant, that pull us apart, that make us ineffective. Just because you bought a battery for a flashlight, the flashlight's not going to work if the battery's sitting there on the table. The battery has got to be connected by putting it inside the flashlight, closing it in, and flicking the switch. If we're not connected divinely, as the Creator made us to be, we're not going to work for each other. We're not going to work with each other. And we're all going to be sitting ducks to what happens around us in this world. That's the sad part of it. It's very sad, right? But your mental and emotional well-being is important. And if you feel stressed to the point of not really being able to function properly, or what was usually easy, you got to push hard through it. That's a very dangerous place to be. You see, that's not good. And we hold these things in and we give the stock answer. Hey, Lance, how's everything? Oh, everything's all right. See me, I got people who I can talk to in my inner circle. Very few, a handful, but they keep me going through my rough times. And I'm there for them to encourage them. And they don't have to just physically be around you, because the ones who are physically around you can wish you the worst. You keep them people away from you. They don't exist. They're dead to you. The ones who bring your energies down, you have to maintain. These are just other things that in trying times, you need to have these other systems, intangible systems in place. We have to foster a sense of community and support networks to help each other through challenging times, right? It's very challenging these days, very complicated. These digital advances and social media and ways of communicating, we're taking in more stuff in our mind, and the natural filters that we have to keep us in balance are being bombarded down. You know, you have certain filters for certain AC units. You have certain filters for certain residential AC units. You can't use that one residential grade AC unit filter for a whole skyscraper, a whole high rise. That one filter where everything comes through, even though you have multiple ductwork. But just imagine everything came through that one. Oh, just get that little filter for a 1-story, 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. No, we haven't evolved that quick. We have things coming at our minds so fast and so hard that our minds are trying to keep up, but we can't clean up fast enough. It's like a website that's not prepared to get 5 million hits within 2 minutes. If it has shared hosting, it may crash. So you have to be prepared mentally. You have to think, and you have to maintain downtime when you can, while you can, because there may come a time where there's not much downtime. You'll be in a state of a call to action 24/7. And when you're not prepared, it's even worse. When you do have a modicum of preparedness in your life, it's a little easier. There are people who I said, listen, something jumps up over there. You got a place to live. You have to come out here. Don't worry about it. If you can't get to me, just come. Find yourself at the Ghana airport. We'll connect sooner or later. But they know where I am. They know my digital address. So they know. Just show up. Oh, wow, you didn't call. No, you don't have to. It may be where you can't call, right? So we have to extend these things and even say to people who we care for, listen, this is what it is if something really jumps off. Ain't no something jumping off. You're wondering, well, I wonder if I can call Lance and fly to Ghana and come live with him. Oh, you come live, but we're going to be farming together. It'll be more hands and more help, and we get more food, right? And you bring your expertise, whatever you know. We live in unity. Nature never gets overloaded. Isn't that something? Nature, true nature, never gets overloaded. Unless now we have companies that rape the whole ecosystem. Manufacturing and taking this and taking that and draining it down. Yeah, they do that. But naturally, you're on your land. They're growing your stuff. You're never going to wear it down. It never wears out. I've never seen a plant that needed Viagra. But it's crucial to emphasize that while being prepared is wise, it's equally important to focus on building a resilient and sustainable community. International organizations, the ones that do, also play a vital role in preventing and managing catastrophic events. The best approach is to actively work toward a peaceful and secure world while taking reasonable precautions for personal and community resilience. Because things can happen in the world, but how does it affect you locally? It's going to affect you, but how does it affect you locally? The immediate impact, the immediate thing that you have to deal with that's in your face, that while it may have been set off by something on an international level, how does it affect you locally? What is your positioning? See, where I am right now, I don't think that there are any nuclear bombs aimed at this place. I wanted to move away from that threat because I wanted to move away from a place that's hated worldwide. That's why we have BRICS nations. Nobody These folks don't want to be associated with NATO anymore. If you don't know what that is, you need to know. Google it. The internet is not all an evil place. There's a lot of evil things that happen there. People take advantage, and there's cyber attacks, and there's identity theft. Yes, we know that. But there's a lot of information that we can get if we go there proactively and go after it. But a lot of us, whatever's thrown out, we catch, we allow into our subconscious minds, and we don't filter it out because it's too sweet of a gossip, and I just want to listen to this for 2 minutes. And 2 minutes turns into 10 minutes, 10 minutes turns into an hour turns into 3 and 4 hours collectively through the day, because really and truly, we pay that phone more mind than we do our fingers, our limbs, our body. We're in that phone. You leave out the house, you turn around, I got to get my phone. Well, it's useful, but it's only a tool. It should never be a whole life. And it should never be something that distracts you from living a full life organically. Organically. Don't take on all this stress with the things that are being put in your head to distract you and keep you away from the things you have to do. When was the last time you put your hands in some dirt and planted some things? When was the last time you did that? Been a while, huh? You better get to know that, because if you have land, that's your supermarket. That's how you're going to eat, because your relationship with nature should be direct. There's a whole apocalyptic popcorn, right? Apocalyptic world that they project in the movies. It can happen, but it's worse now when you're not prepared. So instead of sitting here and being fearful of this, go after the fear by being proactive and being prepared. When you're prepared for something, you have no fear of it. You see what I mean? Just like I have a fear of mosquitoes at the catch of malaria, and I see a mosquito hovering around like he wants to get at my limbs. The ankles, there's not much fat there, just skin and veins. It's like, ooh, I can get that all you can eat and put some malaria inside of him. Not every mosquito has malaria, though. Look, I almost died when I came back to America back in 2019 after my first trip to Ghana. Did that stop me from coming here? No. I know that I need to be prepared for certain things and to minimize certain things. But I know in America, I could be walking down the street and catch a stray bullet and just be wiped out. Doesn't happen every day. But it does happen every day. I was looking at the news in New York City, the crime that happens in New York City. And in one day, I think like 8 or 9 people got killed. And that's the norm. That's the norm, more or less. One person got slashed on the subway. Another person got pushed onto the tracks in the subway. Another person was in some type of establishment, and they got tossed out, and they came back and shot the place up. Another person came home and found his wife in the bed with another man. They both got killed. Another student got stabbed, and he died. What kind of mess, unnatural living conditions. This is why, I'm the extroverted recluse. I could be the life of the party, but I get off and enjoy being reclusive also, because the energy that many people have in their ignorance and in their low vibration, it will average you out and pull you down. And just like I said before when we were speaking about food, I'm going to wrap this up right now. Anything you eat or everything you eat, right, either raises your vibration, brings you into a better state of health on a higher level to keep you going and extended, or it brings you down. It lowers your health. It lowers your resistance to the diseases. And people, although they're not food, by being around them, and they have their frustrations, and they have their toxicities, and they have their hang-ups, you keep hanging around them, they're going to bring you down. They're going to bring you down to a low productivity rate. But the good people who are about something, who are aspiring for something, they're the ones who will bring you up. I got a nickname. I call them back porch Negroes. All they do is sit there and look at you. Got nothing to do all day, except the menial things, right? They got to wipe their backside. They got to wash their clothes. They got to, wash out the dishes. But what I'm saying is that aside from what you need to do on a normal level, that's a foregone conclusion. What are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your mind? Your mind is a very powerful thing. And if all we do is lower vibrational things, or all they do is lower vibrational things, you need to avoid them like the plague. They can be nice and smile and say intelligent things, but then don't have their mind there. So you know they're toxic, narcissistic, whatever. When you had a taste of them, you know what they're all about. You got to stay away from them because they will mar your productivity. Look at me. I'm trying to lunge. That's not a, that's a gnat. That's not a mosquito. Oh, poor gnat. He got it for the mosquito. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this down. I want to let you know that I love you all very much and thank you so much for vibing here with me. I'm going to come back with something else. There's so much to do. And even though people say the new year is not the 1st of January, it's this time or that time again, every day is the first day of the rest of your life. And that's one thing I know for sure. And that being said, make each day count. Let it be a building block to the final, well, not final, but the ultimate structure that you hope to create with your life and the legacy that you leave and the energy that you put into your creations. Remember, even after you transition, those things that you created have an energy about it that will help people long after you're gone. So live a life that will affect people long after you're gone. Not that, or a life that when you transition, people come around in your name, only to eye what you have or had to fight over it like maggots, like leeches, like vultures. And after that, they're done. And you didn't leave anything. Have a life of value that helps people long after you're gone. And really, that's all I have to say right now. And thank you so much for being here. Like, share, and subscribe. Support the channel. There'll be graphics up there to do so. You know, it's an ongoing thing. And this is a labor of love, and it has been for all these years. And I will always continue to do what it is that I do because it brings me joy and validates my existence. And it's a way of thanking my Creator for instilling inside of me different skills and abilities. And we all have them. Don't be fooled. Don't feel low about yourself because you haven't found or discovered it yet. Sometimes we have to excavate those talents. You know, just like yams in the ground and potatoes in the ground. We walk by, we're walking over food and don't even know it. Peanuts that grow under the ground. We're walking over food. We just see fruits hanging. We think, oh, we ate all the fruits and now we don't have anything else to eat. It's always there. Your Creator made you in a brilliant way. No matter what you're going through, what cloud is over your barbecue or over your cookout, it's not going to last forever because there's always rays of sunlight that's for you, that's going to hit you, that even when you see the clouds, you think the sun is not shining, it's still shining, ready to deliver those rays of sun on you. Whatever's for someone else is for someone else, but whatever's for you is for you. And that's the way it goes. And that's why nature's a beautiful thing. Nature will never let you down. And whatever you call God or Creator or Most High or the ultimate energy, the one who made the all, the whatever, the closest thing to us to physically see it is nature because it takes care of us and it loves us. Even sometimes we don't love it and do the right things, but the things that grow out there to sustain us, it loves us. And that's an unconditional, everlasting love. And that can't come from a man-made terroristic group that wants to destroy your connection with nature. That love can only come from what many people call God. I don't mean it in the European sense, but that Creator who made this, because we didn't make this. We didn't even make ourselves. We didn't say we're so, look how brilliant we are. I mean, we're made to be. All of our liver, kidneys, lungs, heart, inside the torso. Ain't no computer as efficient as that we can stand up and move on 2 feet and have eyes. Can you create eyes? Hearing, where we can hear the sound waves and register this thing, balance and